All right, Harmony Science Academy college math students, welcome back to semester 2. Let's get this thing taken care of, okay? We're working on section 1.10, specifically simplified radical expressions, okay? You want to pause the video at some point, or excuse me, you want to take time at some point in the class, maybe at home, and look up these two words, okay, these vocabulary words, simplify and radical expressions are going to help you in today's lesson, okay? So this is my I do. This is where I get to teach you one of a couple of problems or a couple of problems that you yourself have to basically know how to do, okay? And you'll get the rest of these for you to do, whether in a group or by yourself, in a little bit, okay? So let's go ahead and start off with good old number 1. Now again, as far as the objective, simplify rational expressions, simplify each and state the excluded values, okay? So apparently they want those two things. So this might take us 2 days, okay? But it's very valuable because it brings up your algebra skills, okay? So let's go ahead and look at this first one. Simplify, right? Make it simpler and state the excluded values. What values? So I think the first thing we should do is this part, okay? The excluded values. That's what I'm going to encourage you guys to do. So basically, what values down here, okay, in the denominator, here's the numerator, what values here for m will produce a 0, right? You guys remember that from your algebra classes? That's an excluded value. So here's what you do. You take whatever's on the bottom and you solve for it, okay? So this is nice and simple. Add 2 to both sides and you get m equals to, when m is 2, okay, if I put in 2 here, 2 minus 2 is 0, so that should be excluded, okay? The way we're going to write this is like this. 2. Okay? These are just very fancy parentheses. Okay, it's a set that includes the number 2. Okay? We don't have to get too complicated about it. Just write it like this. Okay? All right. Why the 2? Because it's excluded. So now we're done with that part. Okay? Now I need to go to this part and simplify. Okay? What this means, what you're going to be doing a lot is factoring. Okay? So keep that in mind. Factoring is a very important skill, and we're going to get a chance to practice it. So please, even if you think you don't like math, just hang in there and get stronger at math. Okay? So this trinomial, we need to factor it, and you guys have done it before, right? Where you set it up like this. Right, you put m, okay? Don't get lost. And you've got to ask yourself, two numbers that multiply to give you a positive 4, and those same two numbers add to give you a negative 4, okay? So I am already used to this, so I know the answer is negative 2 times negative 2 gives me a 4, and negative 2 plus negative 2 gives me negative 4, okay? So there's that. And then down here I have m minus 2. So again, they want me to simplify, so I got to make it simpler. So m minus 2 divided by m minus 2 can be canceled out. So I'm left with m minus 2 as a final answer. Okay? So at the end, I'm going to write what is simpler or simplified, a semicolon, and then I'll have my 2 in there. Okay? This is what you'll have at the very end. Okay? If you need some help, then we'll go slower in class. Okay? Let's go ahead and pick up the pace here. So you should, all these problems should be at the same level, and then at 9 it gets a little tougher. Okay, just a little bit. So let's go ahead and do number 9. Okay? Number 9, again, we're gonna what? we're looking for the excluded values first, so we don't forget. So let's go ahead and take x squared minus 13x plus 40. Okay, what am I going to do here? Think. Okay, if you said equals 0, good, because anything down here when it equals 0, you're dividing by 0, and you can't do that in math, right? So that's why I put equal. I want to find out those values, so I'm going to go ahead and factor. Now, these polynomials don't always factor, okay? So we're going to see what happens on in a little bit, but for right now, this one does. Okay. And what are those numbers? So I'm going to set it up like this. And two numbers that multiply to give me him, and then add to give me here. So again, sometimes you won't get it on the first try. Hang in there. Okay. So for example, I could try -2 and -20. This times this gives me +40. This plus this gives me -22. Not this one, so that's not correct. Okay, that's what some of you guys might have to do, and that's fine. Okay, take time to get better at your algebra. It's okay. Anyways, after a couple of tries, you'll find that this is the answer right there. Okay, this times this is +40. This plus this equals -13. Okay. So what this says is if this is 0, the whole thing is 0, and if this is 0, the whole thing is 0, so I can put x minus 5. When does that equal 0? And I can put x minus 8. And when does that equal 0? Okay. So here, if I add 5 to both sides, I get x equals 5. Okay. And here, if I add 8 to both sides, I get x equals 8. Alright, so these will be the values I exclude at the end. Okay, 5 and 8. Okay, I'll write that once I'm done completely. So anyways, let's go ahead and continue. Okay, now again, the instructions, besides the excluded values, okay, those I'm going to throw out. Simplify. Okay, so how do I make this simpler? Again, more often than not, just think factor. Okay. So I'm going to go like this and like that. Again, two numbers that multiply to give me -15, and then they add to -2. So I'm going to put like this. So 3 times -5 is -15. 3 plus -5 is -2. Okay. That was for the top. Now I'm going to do the bottom. Okay. Do you know what goes in here? Okay, you should, because we did it over here as part of that other process. Okay. And what do you guys notice? You can pause the video if you watch this again, but you should notice that x minus 5 divided by x minus 5 is the same. So this cancels with this, and you're left with this. Can I cancel this? No, that's a +3, that's a -8, so they're different. So I'm left with this over this. Okay. If you can handle it, great. If not, practice. Well, again, we might take 2 days, so don't just quit. Okay, stay strong, and maybe we can work with a strong student with a student that's not so strong. Okay. So, anyways, simplify is this. The excluded value is this. 5, 8. Okay. All right. And those are about the same level all the way up to 16. And then we get to the rest of them. Okay. These are a little tougher. Okay. So let's go ahead and work with 19. Okay. This will be the last one that I do. Excuse me. Now, you're going to get sometimes problems like this. Okay. Where you cannot factor. Okay. So, what do we do in this case? Okay, let's go ahead and approach 19 here. Alright, or at least you can't factor the other way, right? Because there's a 7 up here in the front. So let's go ahead and set that equal to 0. Seven x squared minus 2x minus 9 equals 0. Okay. So in this case, I don't have too much room here, but here we go. I'm going to go 7x x minus. Okay. Now this one's a little funkier. So what am I going to do here? Okay. I do know that ultimately I'm going to have to multiply here to get a negative 9. And once this guy gets involved, we're going to need to involve this guy. Okay. So let's go ahead and try this one out. If I go 3 and 3, 9. Let's try. Let's try the 9 here. Okay. And let's try a 1 here. Okay. A plus 1. So again, these are more advanced. So if you're comfortable, great. If not, master the other stuff. Maybe on the second day you can work more on this. But here's how I would check this. Okay, check this out. You guys know FOIL, right? So 7x times x is 7x squared. Good. 7x times 1 is 7x. Negative 9 times x is negative 9x. And if I add, okay, I'll actually write it out here. This times this is 7x squared. This times this is 7x. This times this is minus 9x. And this times this is minus 9. Okay, so if I combine these two terms, again, the negative 2x, so this is the winning factored form, okay? So I don't really need that. That was just for me to check. Now that I found the winner, okay, the factorized form, I can set each one of those equal to 0 to find the, what? The excluded values. Okay, so I'm going to go like this here. 7x minus 9 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. Okay. And I get here, add 9 to both sides and divide by 7. So x equals, x equals 9/7. And here, subtract 1 to both sides and I get x equals negative 1. So the excluded values are negative 1 and 9/7. Again, this is the more advanced problems. So hang in there, okay? Take a deep breath. All right. So now I'm going to simplify. The cool thing is what? I've got the factored form down here. Okay. So that's pretty cool. Now what I'm going to do is factor this guy out here, up here on top. This is going to require a lot of your algebra knowledge. So here's what I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to factor out from these two terms the greatest common factor, okay, which is the 5 and the 10 can both be divided by a 5. The x cubed and the x squared both have an x squared in common. Okay. So if I take that out, what's left over? An x. And if I take out a 5x squared from here, I'm left with a minus 2. Okay. Alright. Now, on this side, I want to factor out a minus 5 from him and him, which leaves me an x. And if I take out a negative 5 from a 10, or divide it out, I get left with a negative 2. Okay. And down here I have this form right here. Okay. So I don't see anything that can cancel just yet. So, but I do see that this side and this side have an x minus 2 in common. Okay, so let me go in a different color so it doesn't get confusing here. Okay, so x minus 2, I'm going to take it out from the top. Okay, draw a line here. I've got x minus 2. And if I factor it out from here and here, I'm left with that. Okay. So this is the top, and now I have the bottom. Okay. Now, let's see here. How can I copy this? Oops. Alright, let me try this one more time here. Copy. Okay. So let me go and continue down here, okay? Again, these are advanced. I totally get it, but you guys are going to be fine, okay? So the next thing I do is I notice nothing cancels, but I do notice that I can take out a 5 from here. So check this out. I'm going to go x minus 2. I'll draw another line. I'm going to take out a 5 from here, and I'm left with what? X squared minus 1. Okay? And down here I'm still left with 7x minus 9, x plus 1. Okay? So, okay. I'm looking here and I notice that again there's nothing that cancels, so my eyes come to this bad boy right here, okay? I know that I can break this guy up. You guys have seen it before, may have forgotten, but here's what it becomes. I'll put the 5 up here, okay? This, we can factor it out like that, okay? And technically this is the same as that, okay? Which means I need to multiply two numbers to give me a negative one, and they add up to 0. So that's going to be minus 1 plus 1, right? This times this gives me this. This plus this is 0x, and the 0x doesn't exist. That's why it's not on here, okay? So we got So at this point, depending on how the class does, I may not include these come test time, okay? But at least give it a chance to work on your skill as best as you can, okay? So anyways, at this point we notice that this x plus 1 and this one cancel out. And beyond that, do we have anything else that cancels out or we can do anything else with? No? Okay. So let me get the excluded values, which was negative 1/9/7. And we have, as our final answer, this here is simplified. And the excluded values, negative 1/9/7. Alright, this was a longer than usual video, but it'll be available, especially since we'll be here probably more than one day, okay? If you have any other questions, we'll definitely deal with them in class.